Okay, before I get started, this is a quick disclaimer. This tutorial is for my current computer science class and therefore it's targeted to those students, but anyone is absolutely welcome to join in. You can post links below. There's no prizes, it is just for fun. So let's get started. So I'm going to go into Unity and I'm going to create a new project. That project is going to be called GameJam May 2022. I'm keeping it as a simple 3D project and press create. While waiting for it to load, our plan is a little mini game jam, looking at 2, maybe 3 hours tops. We want to make a simple game where you race around an environment collecting objects and do it in as quick as time as possible. So our ingredients we're going to need one 3D vehicle model. We're going to need 2 main scripts, although I've worked out we can actually need 3 scripts for this, 3 scenes, and then you can add extra objects to taste. So for your theme, for your style. Okay, the method we're going to do is going to create the 3D model. We're going to create 3 scenes in Unity, although we might not do that straight away. In our main, we're going to add a ground, but we're not going to edit the ground yet. It's very important we don't do that just yet. We're going to add our vehicle. We're going to add a script that can make our little model spin left and right and move forwards. We are then going to parent our main camera, edit the terrain, add some little obstacles, maybe some things to pick up, add the script so we can keep track of how many things we've picked up, add a count timer, add a simple UI, and then add our scenes to link, and then we have got ourselves a game. Okay, let's see whether Unity's finished creating our project. No, it hasn't, so I shall pause the video and wait for it to catch up. Okay, so that took a bit longer than I was hoping for. So the first thing I'm going to do, like I said on our instructions, is I'm going to add a terrain. So a 3D object, terrain. There we go. I'm just going to make sure that it is in 0 coordinates. Yep, that's fine, it's in 0 coordinates. Like I said, we are not going to edit it right now for reasons I shall explain shortly. So I've already gone into Blender. I've made myself a little UFO because the theme of my game is going to be a UFO that's got to collect cows because that seems to be a trending thing to do. Okay, so I've got my UFO. I've already exported it as an FBX. So I'm just going to drag the FBX file into my scene. Now what I should really do is not put it inside assets. I should create a folder, but I'm just going to keep things going quickly for now. I've also got a couple of textures. Now, again, to speed things up, I'm just using a basic grass texture and a basic gravel texture for the ground. You could, by all means, go on to onto Unity Asset Store. You could type in terrain assets and you could download some very nice text for your terrains, but it's 1.6 gigabytes, so it's going to take time and I don't want to spend that time right now, and of course it will make your project folder so much bigger. Okay, I've got my UFO. I'm just going to drag that on. Now because it's come from Blender, it's also brought everything with it, including the light and the camera. So I'm just going to click on the camera and the light and I'm just going to turn them off. There we go, there's my UFO. Now I want my UFO to look like it's just above the ground, like it's just hovering. So I'm going to drag it up. I'm going to add a box collider. Now the box collider will sort of do its best, but I want the box collider to be below so that it's going to be looks like it's hovering. So I'm just going to drag that box collider, remove the center, I'm going to scroll it down a little bit so it's just below the legs, and then I can move the whole UFO up. I'm going to add a rigid body. That'll make it have physics, so it'll become solid. We can move it around. So if I was to press play now, we should see it drop to this terrain. It's going to take a few seconds. So it just about did. You could just about see. In fact, if I split the screen, you'll see it happen a little bit quicker. I'll move it up in the air. If I press play, there we go, we can see it land on the ground. So it is now, so it's not going to fall through. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is want to create a script. I'm just going to call this vehicle. Should I call it vehicle? Move vehicle. No, I'm going to call it simple vehicle because I want to be able to reuse a script for other things, maybe other themed games. So there's my simple vehicle. I'm going to double click and it should open in Visual Studio because that's what I've got set as the default. I'm going to want a few variables now. Including things like its speed. It's taken a bit longer than I was hoping for. Okay, so I'm going to need a couple of things on this. 2 seconds, I just need to open the right files up. Okay, to speed up, I'm just copy and pasting from something I created earlier. So I've got three variables. One is our velocity. I've prefixed it with the F just to remind us that this is a float, if in case we read it later. So this is our current speed. I've then got a variable called maximum velocity. So the fastest I can go is 10 units. And then I'm also got something called friction, and that's how quick will it slow down. These are numbers that you might want to fiddle with until you feel comfortable with the way your vehicle moves. These are public, which means we'll be able to see them in Unity. So if I just press save now, jump back into Unity, it's going to have to compile that script. Click on my UFO. If I drag the simple vehicle script on, we can see that our variables are there, so we can play about with these settings. We don't need current velocity to be public, so I can play about with what's maximum speed and how quick it slow down by. Again, you might just want to fiddle with those numbers. Okay, so back into the code. I want to have and I found this the hard way. Inside update, this is how sensitive my keys are going to be. And again, this is a number you might want to play with. I then want to do some keyboard input for left and right. So again, I've got if input.getKey is keycode.left arrow. So if I press the left arrow key, I want to rotate this model. I want to rotate my UFO by that speed, which is 100 times however fast your computer's running at. So it doesn't matter whether you're on a slow computer or a fast computer, it'll rotate the same over the same amount of seconds. You can see there's a little minus sign there because we're going to rotate to the left. The right arrow is the exact same line, but now it's a positive number. So it'll rotate clockwise, rotate round the y-axis. And then I've got if input get key is dot up arrow, and if your current velocity is less than maximum velocity, then we can add 30 times, again, whatever the current frame rate of your computer is. So it's just going to add a value again. You might want to play about with this number. You might want to make that a public variable so it can accelerate at different rates. Now, I do need to add a little bit more, which is we want it to slow down. So if I just have another bit of code, if velocity is greater than 0, then we're going to just take away the friction value from our current velocity. So it's going to constantly be decreasing the speed. So as soon as you let go of the up arrow, it'll slow down. What is important is that friction is a smaller value than this. So basically friction has to be a smaller number than this, otherwise you'll not go anywhere. So we're going to take away the friction. If velocity is less than 0, so let's say we've subtracted the friction to a minus number, we're just going to set it to 0. This stops the car, it stops the vehicle, stops it from moving at all. I mean, you might want to add a reverse function, in which case you're going to have to sort of factor that in, but we might come back to that later. So the last two lines of code are our direction. So it's a vector 3. Vector 3 is an XYZ value. Direction is at whatever way our forward vehicle is. So again, if you've made a model in Blender, you've got to make sure that you've made your vehicle in the correct way. So that is our forward movement. Otherwise your vehicle will go sideways or some other weird way. So I'm going to transform the forward direction by our velocity again times by our frame rate. And then finally, we apply our direction to our current position. So we're translating it, we're moving it in that direction and in world space. So now if we just press save, go back into Unity, we've already added the code. And now we should have, oh, sorry, I'm going to press play. I'll just move this side a little bit. In fact, it doesn't really matter where I'm going to be. If I press forward, oops, wrong window. There we go. We can now see we're off. And we can see we're flying away. And if I go off the edge of the world, I'm going to plummet to my doom. But we're not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so the next bit is we want the camera to go with. This is not going to be pretty. We're just doing this for speed. After all, that's the whole point of a 2 or a 3 hour game jam. I'm going to move the UFO forward a little bit. I'm going to find my camera. There's the camera. I'm going to drag it over. Sort of zooming in a little bit, making sure it's kind of central. Well, that'll do, that'll do. Come to the side, move it up a little bit. I'm just going to rotate the camera down very slightly, move it up again, move it until you're happy with the position. What will this look like? That'll do, that'll do. So now I can just drag the camera onto the UFO, and that means wherever the UFO goes, the camera goes. I've parented the camera to the UFO. if we can now fly around. We've now got a usable vehicle. Again, you could be doing a car that collects objects, you could be doing a hovercraft, you could be doing a submarine, you could be doing a boat, a helicopter, whatever theme you want to go with is entirely up to you. So what I suggest now is pause the video here and go in and get to this stage. Make sure you've got a vehicle that moves around. Okay, so editing the terrain. So you can see I've already got 2 textures, so I'm not going overboard with this. I'm just going to go onto the terrain, click to the terrain, click on the paintbrush. I don't want to raise and lower right now, I want to paint texture. So I'm going to paint that texture, edit, I'm going to create a layer, choose the grass, oops, press the wrong one. If I should replace the layer, oh I've upset it now, never mind. I've got a gravel texture, that'll do. If I want to create another layer, I can choose the grass this time, I can click on the grass, and this is the one I actually wanted. I can choose brush sizes, so I'm going to paint the texture, I'm going to just choose solid, I'm going to make the brush size really big. Opacity is how strong do you want the brush to be, and I want it to, oh that's way too big. So there we go, you can see I've got grass sort of everywhere now. So I could paint it as much as I like. This is where the terrain assets are really useful because you can get some really good textures there. Okay, that'll do. I'm going to choose the gravel now, make my brush a little bit smaller. Oops, a bit too small. By the way, if I click on UFO and then just press F, it'll focus in. So if you lose something, you can just click on it on your hierarchy, press F, and it will focus in on that item. So I'm just going to go back to terrain, click on the gravel, and I'm just going to sort of make the brush a bit smaller, not as dense, and I can just sort of, you know, put some patches on it. Just gives a bit of shape to it, a bit of colour. So now I'm going to make my terrain high and low, and I'm going to put raise and lower terrain. Now if you want to have ditches, you want to have a hole, maybe a lake's going to be there, you have to think about that initial beginning, because this is the lowest this terrain can go. You cannot dig any further down than 0. So if you wanted to make say a pond, you may want to use set height to say 5. I could make that brush size quite big. And I could, there we go, I've raised the whole ground. And now I could say raise and lower. And at this point, I could start to dig holes. Not saying you should do that, saying you could. I'm going to undo that because I don't want to do that. I'm just going to change that down a little bit, choose that one, and now I can start to put little hills. This is why I said it was important to put your model on first. The biggest question I've been asked by students in the past is how can they make their model go quicker, because it's taking a long time to get from one side to the other. Well, it's a big place. So if you have your model in there first of all, it gives you a sense of scale. Okay, so again, not amazing right now, but again, you please take your time doing stuff. You know, take a bit of time to make it look pretty. Sculpt something that tells a story. Okay, I'm going to put my UFO over a little bit. Now UFOs of course only ever come at night time, so I'm going to click on my directional light. I'm going to make it quite a bit darker. Now the sky colour is not great, so I'm going to click on the camera, not that camera, that's the blender camera. I'm going to click on the main camera, and where it says skybox, I'm just going to say solid colour, and again I'm going to bring that down quite a bit. Now this is where what I should really do is pop back onto the asset store, and I should do a search for skyboxes. But again, I don't want to spend the time at this point when we're trying to do things quite quickly. We can always polish the game later. Okay, so let's have a quick look what we've got at the moment. Okay, so because I've made it solid, I should be able to go up these hills now. If we watch this, it starts to flip over. I don't want that. So a really quick way of solving this, or should we say hiding this, on rigid body constraints, I can just tick freeze rotation X and Z. I want it to rotate around the Y because the Y is up and down, like it's on a pole. But this means it won't rotate X and Z anymore. So it'll keep it upright. At least that's the idea. So now when I hit one of these rocks, it just kind of climbs up. Oh, it's thrown me off though, but that could be an interesting bit of gameplay. So again, something we didn't expect becomes a little feature. Okay. So I've cheated a little bit with this. I'm no good at organic modelling. So I went on to Sketchfab. I looked for a cow. I picked one at random basically. I chose this one, so I will have to make sure I do acknowledge the artist who created this, which is this person. And it does say I can use it under CC attribution, so I should acknowledge this fully, and I shall do that a little bit later. But I went to Sketchfab, sorry. I downloaded, I actually downloaded the Blender file because I didn't want these two file formats, and I have just dumped the Blender file straight into, or at least I will dump the file straight into Blender. So I'm going to drag that on. Now, when you get models from things like Sketchfab, they can sometimes be, the scale might not be what you want them to be. Just remember that when you're in Blender, if you're used to Blender and you add a cube, that cube is 2 meters in size. So if we just click on transform, the cube is 2 meters, it's 2 meters in cube, and that's what it is in your game world as well. So it's worth always considering that. If you're in doubt, add a cube inside Unity. Now a Unity cube, I'll just push this on to 0. I'll just, not 0, I'll just move it over to, that's not even 0, is it? Cube. There we go. I'll just move it over to, well, close to 0. I always like to sometimes start Unity with a cube so I can see how big my world is. But in Unity, that's a 1 meter cube. So it gives you, again, a sense of proportion to your environment. Okay, get rid of that. So, where was I? Got the cow. So there's the cow. If I go on to source and I drag the cow on, again, you don't need to do a cow, by the way, obviously. You should have another shapes. It could be as simple as coins and gems and rings and all that sort of thing. Now, just like my UFO, because from Blender, it's brought the camera and the light. So again, I'm just going to turn those off. And I can now zoom in. There we go, there's the cow. Now, the cow's not got any colour, even though we saw it text on Sketchfab. So I know from previous experience, if I just go on to textures, there's the cow texture. Excuse me. If I just drag that over, there we go, it's remembered where it is now. So that's fine. I've now got a cow. But if I bring that cow near my UFO, I believe it's quite, okay, it's not too bad. I thought it was a little bit larger than that. But I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to go, rather than trying to change the scale here, I'm going to click back on the cow itself, on the Blender file, and over on model, scale factor, it seems to have actually remembered because I did this earlier on a different computer, so I'm surprised that's remembered that. So if I do scale factor 0.3, that's fine. In fact, I might just make it a little bit smaller, of 0.4, apply. Takes a little bit of time. The reason I'm doing this is because if I want to duplicate this cow later, it will remember that that's how big I want this model to be. Oh, I went the wrong way, didn't I? 0.25, let's do that instead. Okay, so now what I want to do is obviously make this cow solid, because the idea is we're going to fly over it, and as we fly over it, we're going to collect the cow, we're going to abduct the cow. Nothing fancy though. And again, if you could be doing the same thing for collecting coins, collecting gems, collecting cogs and gears, whatever it is you want in your game to be. So, on the cow, I am going to do one thing though. It says it's untagged. I want this tagged. So I'm going to add a tag. This is so we can refer to it in, not that. I'm going to call it cow. I'm going to click on the cow. I'm then going to say this cow is now tagged as a cow. This will make it easy for us to reference in code. So, I'm going to add a new script. Create script. We'll call it cow. I don't really like calling things with the same names, like I've got a cow script and a cow model and a cow tag. It can sometimes get confusing a little bit later. Okay, so let's open that up. Now, I've already thought ahead of this. What I want is when the game starts, I want the cow to be randomly placed, so I don't know where it's going to be, because I, the programmer, want to play my game. So I'm going to do something in this cow script. In the start, so when the game first loads up, I'm going to create a random position. And again, it's a vector 3 because we need to store X, Y, and Z. It's going to be a random number between 20 and 100. Again, you could play with these numbers. 1 is the height of it. So how far across is it? 1, how high off the ground is it? And then how far into the distance is it? So again, you might want to play with these numbers. I'm just going to change that to 20. The next thing I'm going to do is, well, we've been painting the terrain. What if the terrain's a little bit higher? You know, if I click on this, I believe if I just raise and lower, have a quick look. If I set texture, hold shift to sample the target height. If I just click with the mouse there, I can see the height is 5 units up. Up there, it's 4 units. So, well, how high is it? So I can use another line of code that's going to get that position. So random position dot y equals the current terrain. We're going to sample the height at this position, and then it's going to store that back into our position y. So it's going to overwrite itself with the height of the terrain. Then finally, I can set the position of the cow to that new random position. So it's 3 lines of code where you feel you could put it in one. But either way, that will now position our cow somewhere randomly within 100 units of where we're starting from. Now the bit I really want is this. I want to know, has the cow been hit by the UFO? Or if in your case, if it's a, like I say, if it's a submarine, you're collecting fish, has your submarine hit the fish? And for that, I need another function called onCollisionEnter. And in that, I've not written that bit of code yet, so I'll come back to that in a moment. I just want to destroy the game object. So if I touch it, it's just going to get destroyed. We're going to delete it from the scene, end of. So if I just save that, let's go back and test it. It's just compiling the code again. Okay, so now if I just, I'll leave it split screen again. I'm going to come back to UFO. If I just press play, right, this is not going to work because I've forgotten to do something. But just to prove it, just in case you make the same mistake. So if I just rotate, there's the cow. Okay, I've gone straight through the cow because the cow's not solid. If I just go back to my cow, we want to add a box collider. Now, do we need a rigid body for this? Not sure. I'll figure that out in a minute. Again, we can see the rigid box. The box is actually below the cow. So I'm going to change that by just going Edit Collider. I'm going to pull this bottom corner up to about where I think its feet are. Not quite high enough. Make it a bit thinner. That'll do. Doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, so let's just try that. I think to make it collide we do actually need a rigid body, but again we're just going to prove it because these are sort of common mistakes people make and they wonder why it's not working. So we've hit it but nothing's happening. It's okay, that's fine. We're just going to, again we're still on the cow, add something, we're going to add a rigid body and we're going to make it kinematic. Do I want to make it kinematic? Let's find out. To the play. No, we didn't want to make it kinematic. Oops, so now we're just dragging the cow across the street. So what's going on? Why is it not deleting? What have we? Which ticky box have I missed? So I've got a rigid body on our UFO, or a box collider on OnCollisionEnter. Okay, so the reason why it's not working, again, schoolboy error, click on the cow. I've not actually added the script. We need to put the script there so it knows what to do. So I drag the cow script over, press play, let's see if it now works. So if we notice the cow has now gone. We've also got a bit of an error. Why have we done that? Okay, so yep, we're on the cow, or your object. It is kinematic. When I didn't tick it, it was actually colliding with the terrain, therefore deleting itself straight away. So now if I just press play, we'll go and look at where the cow is. There's the cow. Press play, the cow should jump to a new location. Yep, the cow is gone. So the cow is somewhere. Let's look where the cow is. We can cheat a little bit. It's over to my side. There's the cow. As soon as I fly over it, cow was gone. Obviously it would be great to add some particle effects and some sounds, but that sort of thing is going to come later. So again, what you should do now is stop the video and then you should go and add some objects. Although before you go, what I'm now going to do is, now I've got multiple cows, now I've got a single cow, I can duplicate this cow. So I'm just going to Control D to duplicate. So I've now got 5 in total, 5 cows. So they're all in the same place, but that doesn't really matter because when I press play, I've now got multiple cows, which are scattered all the way over there. Now they're actually quite a long way from the starting point of the game, so really maybe I want to bring in that random position a little bit, so I can actually so they're a little bit close to home, as it were. There we go, we can see me collect them, we can see the deleting, you can see them from the left hand side of the hierarchy. The more, is that all of them? Oh, there's one more, there we go. They are now all gone. Okay, so like I said, your next thing is to go and add some objects, play about with the script a little bit, you know, play about with the numbers until you're happy with the location. Okay, so I shall see you when you get back. Okay, so our next bit is what did our little PowerPoint actually tell us? We have added the vehicle, we've added the terrain, I've added some pickups. The obstacles really is the terrain for now. What we're going to do now is add a script that will keep track of how many things we've picked up. Okay, so we want to add a canvas. So we want to add a UI, we want to add a canvas. There's our canvas itself. I'm going to add a UI text box. I'm going to go for a Text Mesh Pro. I'm going to move this up a little bit. Don't want to do it like that. Just do it like that. I'll do. Let's make it full screen for the moment. That'll do. In the text, I'm just going to put HUD test so that we can see if it is in fact writing. Let's have a little look. Now it's not writing because if we've noticed a little pop-up box has come up saying this is the first time we've used it, import essentials. So I'm going to press yes. Yes, I want to import the essentials. I'm not going to import the examples and extras for now. Okay, so I can now close that window down. We can now see we've got the HUD test. That's slightly off screen, so I'm going to bring that in a little bit. I am just going to make this back to full screen now. So it's right in the middle. I don't think I like that at all, so I will bring it back to the edge. Again, you might just want to play about a little bit until you're happy. There we go, HUD test. Okay, so what I now need is I need to keep track of what's in the scene. So I'm going to create an empty. This is going to be my main game. This is the third script now. And really after this script we don't need any more to make this game work. So C#, I'm going to call it main game. Again, I'm doing something I don't like, which is naming an object the same as the text file. So I'm going to go into this. And I need to import a couple of things now. So first of all, we need to import TextMex Pro so we know I can talk to it. And I'm also going to just for now include our scene management so we can jump between game over and new screen. I want a global variable, a public variable called HUD, and that's going to be our link to Unity itself, so it knows where to put the right in. So we can sort of link them together. We'll see that in a minute. I want two more variables, which is going to be number of cows equals 0. So again, you'd have number of objects. So this is going to be how many are in the scene itself, and then how many have we collected, because we want to know when there's none left to be collected at all. So in our start menu, I'm going to do something else, and this is why we tagged the cow, because number of cows is equal to find all objects with tag cow.length. So this is going to get all of the objects and then just count them. So if we've got 5 cows, this is going to be 5. And this means so the game designer can add as many as they like. Okay, so I'm going to now, inside our update, HUD.text equals. So I want to have cows abducted. So I'm putting a little space there. And I'm going to add that to our plus cows collected plus sign, because we're adding strings together, we're appending them, of plus number of cows. So this is going to show on screen, hopefully, how many cows we've got of how many. So if I press save, I can go back into Unity. Again, I'll have to compile the script. But now what I can do on main game, I add our main game script. I can now drag the TextMex Pro object onto there, so now it knows how to talk to it. So the script is creating this link back to there. So when I press play, hopefully, if I've done this correctly, there we go, it knows. Oh, I've spelled that wrong. I'll go back and change it very quickly. Cows abducted. Save. Now, of course, we've not told it what to do with any of that, and that's the little bit of code you saw a sneak preview of earlier. If I just press play on this, I haven't. All my cows are gone. Where are they hiding? Like I said, I think I need to change the values a little bit. Nope, I've gone off the ground. Oh, that was awful. We can see the cows over there. That was very bad of me. I might have to cheat a little bit. Like I said, I should really change the random number. Oh, there's a cow. That'll do. There's 2 in fact. Now, it's not updating because we've not told it to. So what I need to do is go back into our code, go back into cow. And if you noticed, I could go main game.cowscollected++. So this is add 1 to cows collected or abducted. And that's it. Okay, so I can press save on that now. So as when this runs, in fact, yeah, okay, it'll be fine. I was just worried in case it destroys the object before it runs this bit of code, because this code's attached to the object. So it's going to call main game, which of course is over here, because I made this a public variable, which means this script can talk to this script. So again, if I just press save, everything's saved. Yep, go back, try this. And now, there we go, cows 1 of 5. I'll not show the whole thing. 2 of 5, 3 of 5, etc. Okay, so we're almost at the end of the game thing now itself. Back in my main game, I can now say, I can check, have we collected all the cows? So inside my update, I can just put, if cows collected equals number of cows, we want to load a scene called game over. Now this doesn't exist yet, so I need to go back into Unity. I need to go File, New Scene. Yeah, I'm going to save that one. I should have been saving as I went along, by the way, but I haven't, so that's very bad of me. So we're just going to call that main game. We're going to call this one save as. We're going to call this game over. And all I'm really going to do very, very quickly is add a UI. So again, I'm going to add a canvas. I'm going to add the text again, just like before. And that's where we can put our sort of game over information. That's just so I just like to put right in there so we can see what's actually happening. And I'm also going to add a button, and that button's going to let us go back to play the game again. So we have nearly finished. Why is that not added? Oh, it's just going a bit slow. There we go. I'm just going to put, if I just drop this down, text, I'm just going to put next. Again, you can put whatever you please on that one. There's going to be an event on this button that I'll trigger, but we'll see to that in just a moment. I'm going to add a new script. I'll try and speed this a little bit now because it's taking a lot longer than I expected. Game over. Just like before, I'm grabbing the includes. I could have probably used the same script. I'm going to put the public HUD again, just like we did before. I'm going to add, is it on start? Yep, we'll do it on start. And then I'm also going to create a little function called click me. So this has to be a public function. I'm going to reset, come back to that, I'm going to reset the cows collected to 0, then we'll load the scene sample. Obviously it's not called that, it was called main game. So I can just press save. We've now got a game over screen. So if I just wait a moment. So again, I want another empty main game. I just like to call the main game or a game controller. If I put game over on it, I can grab text box onto there. On the button itself, if we come down here to where it's on click, list is empty, well, I'm going to add our object. So if I just grab main game, put main game on there, and main game, as we know, has a game over function called click me. So if I press click me, whenever we press that button, it's going to trigger that function. So hopefully it will reset our game. So I need to go onto File, Build Settings, add this current scene, Make sure we've saved it. Yep, saved it. I'm going to go back to our old scene, which was main game. Where did I just save game over to? There. I'm going to drag that into the scenes folder. I've just obviously put it in the wrong place. So if I just go back onto main game, which we are, and go into build settings, add current scene, I'm just going to swap order of those. So now if I play, I'm going to have to collect all the 5 cows now. I should have changed the code so they were a little bit close together. Okay. So 3, but they were quite easy to catch. So now it's going to jump to the game over scene, hopefully. There we go, gone to game over, collected 5 cows, can press next, brings us back to the beginning, and we've now got cows abducted. Now if you notice the lighting's changed, it's because I've not built the lighting as yet. Okay, I want to add one more thing, which is I want to add a countdown timer. So I'm going to come back into my game thing, because I want to, not a countdown, a count up timer, because I want to keep track of how long it takes, because there should be some score element. I mean, you could have a countdown and maybe you've got 30 seconds to find everything. So I'm creating a public timer. The reason I've made it public static is because I want it to be accessible. Oops, I put it in the wrong place for now. I want it to be accessible in the game over. So I've made it static so that it remains in memory for the entire length of the game's running. In the update function, I can just put the timer plus equals. It's going to add however long it was from the last frame to this frame, so the timer's going to keep on counting up. And then I can add a little bit extra to our text box. Because it's multiple lines, I've just spread it across 2 lines. So the white space is there just to make it easy for me. /n means new line. It's going to put the timer out there. So if I just run that save that, sorry, and on game over, I'm going to update game over as well to output the same thing, so we can see how long it took. And if we were really spending time on the game, this is where we'd have a scoreboard. And you'd add that timer and the player's name, but we don't have time for that right now. Okay, so I have now got what I believe is a full game cycle. So if I just press play, okay, it's taking a little bit of a while. So now there we go, we can see it's counting time. Oh, I missed it. That's painful. I should really put a stop button on so I can obviously get it, stop it quicker. Okay, I saw cow to the left. Oh, I missed it. This is rubbish. Okay, I think you kind of get the point anyway. I'm just going to do a very quick post-credit scene, which is if you want to turn it into a web game rather than just being an executable, press next. There we go. We're back to the beginning and we get another go. We'll have to fix that lighting next time. So what I can now do though, and I'm going to be really quick on this, if I go into build settings, I can go WebGL. If I say switch platform, I think I want to switch platform. This could take a while, so I'm a bit nervous about doing it at the moment. We're going to play settings first though. If I go on to, there we go, on the web already. It's not there, it's gone missing. I think I've got to switch platform, which takes a while. Okay, so it's done the conversion to WebGL. If I go on to player settings, I can click on resolution and presentation. Now this only works if you've got the WebGL web-based plugin installed back on the settings. I'll find the hub in a moment and show you. So if I just click on default, yep, that's fine. And I then click on build and run. I always like to create a little folder called dist for distribution. I'm just going to put inside there. Select folder. And then once it's finished, your game will pop up in a web browser. Okay, so that's just taken 10 minutes to compile, so I probably wouldn't recommend doing that if you're in any kind of rush. We can see the game plays just about the same. Obviously my next step will be to add some polish to this game, to add some nice lighting effects, add some particles, add some sound effects, have like to have a countdown timer instead. Maybe having the cow slowly moving around to make it harder. Maybe make it so you've actually got to press a trigger button to actually emit your transporter beam. And maybe there's only so much energy you've got, otherwise it doesn't actually work. But obviously, please feel free to take this code, turn it into your theme, into your style, put a bit of a different spin on it, and then share your links. I look forward to seeing what you've created. And again, if you've made this far, well done. This video is a lot longer than I was anticipating. I thought it'd be about maybe 12-13 minutes long, but if you've made this far, please do press like, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.